Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marina Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Christopher Lee Maher. Christopher is a former Navy SEAL, and today we are going to be speaking on the topic, Path to Inner Freedom and Outer Peace. Welcome, Christopher.
Hi, glad to be here.
Yes, love to have you here. We're going to have a really great conversation. We had a good intro before we went on the air, so that is excellent. All right, guys, so listen, let me give you guys a brief background on Christopher Lee Maher. As I mentioned, he is a former Navy SEAL who endured intense amounts of physical, mental, and emotional stress as a child and during and after his military career. He has taught himself how to free his energy, body, mind, and emotions from pain by developing the emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of being. Christopher studied traditional Chinese medical practices at the Pacific College of Oriental Medicine and Yosan University, then continued his studies at the Universal Healing Tao System. He is currently pursuing his master's and doctoral degrees in traditional Chinese medicine. Check out his website, truebodyintelligence.com. And we're gonna share that website at the end of the show as well. So welcome, Christopher. Hey. I'm always interested in stories. You know, stories tell so much, but also sets the background for a conversation in our talk. So can you share your backstory? I understand that you said that you experienced intense, complex stressors as a child, and then after being a Navy SEAL. Now I can understand the Navy SEAL bit a little bit because I read one of the Navy SEALs, Christopher, what's his name? Sorry. I'm gonna forget his name now. But anyway, Doggins, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And that book was so amazing. So I understand the details of a Navy SEAL training. So I understand how that could be intense. So tell us your backstory, as a child, and what led you into the Navy SEALs and what happened after,
Sure. The complex stressors began soon after I was born. I was born severely bow-legged, and my mother convinced the doctors to break my legs and cast them. And so I spent my first, 6, 7, 8 weeks in cast. And imagine being a 2-day-old baby and you get your femurs broken at mid-thigh. Okay, sure, yes, the bones are soft, but the amount of discomfort and pain that would be activated in your nervous system, plus, as a day-old baby and you're being circumcised as a boy, that's the most sensitive part of your body, right? So in the first 2 days, I have those things going on, plus my mother's having a mental meltdown at the same time emotionally. So I had the trifecta, right? So that's how life started. And for me, I think that level of stress and trauma only drew more dramatic situations for me. So when I was 3.5 years old, a babysitter decided that the best way to teach me not to play with matches was to put my hands on the gas stove. Ooh. And then when she came out of her break from reality, she decided that the best idea was to put Vicks vapor rubs on my hands because she wasn't present. Okay, so, that's some of what happened. I won't go into all of the details. And then my mom passes away. She commits suicide when I'm 7 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And so you look at that.
I'm understanding the complex stressors or the compounded stressors. You. Okay.
Right. And so those only continue to keep getting more complex. And so SEAL training was a natural fit for me. because I was
Why,
already
you
good.
wanted pain? Because there's a lot of pain there.
I was already good at self-soothing.
Okay.
Okay. I was already knew how to get over things quickly. And they heap huge amounts of stress on you constantly.
Mhm.
So in SEAL training, there's a wall where it reads, the only easy day was yesterday. Well, that was literally my life before I went to SEAL training. So,
Mm.
so in SEAL training, a lot of guys have the experience and desire of wanting to quit. And mentally, it's a big challenge for them. Mentally, I mean, SEAL training was nothing for me because I I had already been through so much. They were only matching what I had already experienced, right?
Wow.
And the thing that was difficult for me was to deal with the cold because my body was so lean, right? I didn't have fat on my body anywhere, okay?
Mm.
And on a good day, the water in Coronado could be 54, 53, 52 degrees, and you might be in that water for a few hours. Okay, so learning how to manage my energy while being turned into an ice cube um, was a lot
Like,
to manage because your mind only has so much control over your physiology. And my body was going into what's called full-blown hypothermia. So during SEAL training, I was hospitalized because my core temperature dropped down to 87.6 or 4 degrees or something like that. And that was out of my control.
mhm,
Okay. I could deal with pain, I could deal with discomfort, but your
mhm,
body's going to shut down if it's not getting what it needs or it's
mhm,
getting too much of something.
mhm,
And so I could always use my mind to override whatever discomfort that I was in. So,
mhm.
that's 2 days old to no, that's the first day until 20 years old.
Okay. All right.
So imagine being through that many dynamic complex stressors, right? And the cold is brutal
Mm.
because water has 25 times the cooling effect of air. So
Okay.
if you stepped outside and it was 52 degrees and you were stark naked, okay, and I put your twin sister in water that was 52 degrees and she was stark naked, she would get colder 25 times faster than you.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Older. I thought you meant colder, but you're saying, did
Yeah.
you say colder or older?
Colder, colder,
Okay, colder. All right.
colder,
Yes.
right?
Okay. Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
Got you.
So,
Mhm.
so after I got out of the SEAL teams, and I introduced myself back into what we call civilian life,
Mhm.
right? My goal was to get to the Olympic trials
Okay. For
and
what? For what? What was your
for track and
specialty?
field, track and field.
Okay. All right. Mhm.
Um, and I continued to keep getting injured again and 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 again. And no matter how hard I worked, no matter how devoted I was, no matter how dedicated, um, I continued to keep struggling. And so I was
Mhm.
knocked because of the amount of density and stress trapped in my body. I got put onto the path of struggle and strife, right? So imagine there's two paths. There's the path of ease and grace,
Mhm.
and there's the path of struggle and strife. Most
Mhm.
humans are on the path of struggle and strife.
Mhm.
So until you reduce that lifetime accumulated stress that you've picked up, you stay on the path of struggle and strife. And
Yeah.
so that led to more complex injuries until it got into the center of my hip after a car accident.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then there was nothing I could do to get away from it. Nothing I could do
Wow.
to get away from it. It throbbed every second of the day. So regardless of what position my hip was in or my legs was in, whether I
Mhm.
was walking, hopping, skipping, or jumping, the center of my hip was throbbing.
Wow.
And then I had to do what was really vulnerable for me. I had to reach out and ask for help.
Mhm.
Okay.
From the army, or where did you go?
I went to anyone who was um, skilled in some form of holistic care.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So that's the
And
bridge to the Chinese medicine. Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
And every practitioner, every system that I went to, they gave me some relief, right? And I was grateful for that little bit of relief. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, none of that actually addressed what was really going on, because the systems that existed when I was born on the planet and I was in the middle of my issues, the system I needed in order to get out of it, it didn't exist.
Okay.
Okay, so when I was born, there was no way a person could go through a true transformational experience because true transformation didn't exist. Transformation at the surface existed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little deeper than the surface, but that's about it. And I scoured the planet to find anything and everything. And I spent all my time, my energy, my efforts, my resources on figuring out how to put myself back together. And I ran into some people along the way that knew, a decent amount of information and knowledge. But the challenge was, is a lot of them um, were wanting to run guruship energy.
Okay.
And I could only participate in that for so long because I already have a good, strong sense of myself because I have a lot of inner self-esteem.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, um, so then I started to piecemeal these pieces together and figure out, well, what's actually the implicate order that a person needs to, what's the implicate order within a system that a person needs to go through in order to get to a true transformation, right? Where do you start? What's the first step? What's the correct step? Where's the best place to put your time, your energy, your effort, and your resources? Because while my friends were investing in real estate and investing in stocks,
Mm-hmm.
and I was investing in education,
Right.
right?
Personal growth. Right. Okay.
Yes, because that was
Personal
the
growth
one
and
thing.
development. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just as important as money, right? Or some
no,
people
no,
might say even more important. Right. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But I'm
Maybe
thinking as you're talking that maybe the mindset had to be involved somewhere. So was that part of it?
no. I mean, my mindset has always been my mindset, meaning that when I jump into something, I go all in.
Okay.
So if I'm going to learn the guitar, right, you're going to find me in my apartment, 5, 6 hours a day playing until my fingers are bleeding
Okay.
because I'm going to go all in. Meaning I had a SEAL team mindset, but I
Okay.
already had that mindset. I had a healthy, developed ego because everything that I had to transform through as a
Mhm.
child, right?
Right.
Actually, let's say everything I had to manage. There's a big difference between managing and transforming.
Transforming. Right. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, give me the spiel on transformation. This is what this show is all about. But my transformation that I talk about comes from change the way you think and things will change. But and that's where the mindset comes in, which is why I asked you that. So what did you find out?
Yeah. Well, for me, my mindset has always been one of transformation.
Right.
So that was already in place, right? What I needed to learn and know is that stored stress, meaning unresolved stress,
Mm-hmm.
transforms into physical tension.
Right.
And that physical tension, when it reaches a certain level, it creates what's called emotional distortion.
Okay.
Okay. So energetic, right? Mental stress transforms into physical tension. The tension gets so high, it generates emotional distortion.
Okay.
And so, in order to transform, well, obviously, you have to walk back through the doors you came in. And so then
Okay.
what I discovered is that 99.99999% of all human beings store their maximal saturation of stress, tension, and distortion is at about 86.4%, the average human.
Okay.
Okay, so that means if I lined every human up on the planet right now and I could work on them, we would find that they only have 15% of their mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical capacity that isn't severely stressed out. That's it. And it's funny because if you look into data surrounded around intelligence, what do they tell you? They tell
10%.
you that the average
Yeah.
human is
10% of the brain,
operating
right?
about 10,
Right.
right? And the ones who are
Right.
operating really high,
Yeah.
functioning really high,
Mhm.
they're getting 12%,
Mhm.
right? So the
Right.
math is the same. Well, let's do the inverse of that. What if we could reduce your lifetime accumulated stress load by 50%? What would that do
How
to
do we
your
do that?
intelligence? What would that do to your physical intelligence? What would that do to your emotional intelligence? What would that do to your spiritual intelligence? What would that do to your analytical intelligence? The truth is it would raise it dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Right.
not only was I discovering that along the way as I was removing the tension, the stress, and the distortion and the toxicity from my body, I was having powerful mental insights and awarenesses every single day.
Okay. So tell us about that. What was how did you fall into that, number one? And I know that you were working on your master's and doctoral in Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine. So are you saying that Chinese medicine, I just interviewed and I get his teachings every day from a master lama who is talking about the Tao Te Ching. And that's kind of like spirituality and movement and things like that. So what is it that people can do? For instance, you talk about your compound complex stressors, and they started from the time you were a baby, a couple days old, which by the way, I was telling you I'm from Ghana. That's what they do in Ghana too. If somebody's bow-legged, they break their leg. So in order to straighten it, because if they don't, then you'll be walking around like this all your life. But so yeah, guide us through how this transformation of our stressors can can help us to operate in a higher capacity or emotional capacity.
Yeah. As you remove tension from the body, and I'm talking about something very different than yoga or traditional stretching. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I'm talking about is changing bone rotational relationships. And what that means is that you have different forms of health. So you have tissue health. So your tissue would be your fascia, your muscles, your ligaments, your tendons, and your bones. Those would be your structural tissues. When those tissues are unhealthy, when you push into them, guess what you find? Pain.
Sorry.
You find pain.
Pain. Okay. All right.
Pain. You find
Okay.
discomfort. If I laid you on a table now and
Mm-hmm.
we started running my elbow across all those little muscles across your back, we
Mm-hmm.
might find discomfort and pain.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
If we did it across the back of your legs, your neck, your shoulder, your jaw. So wherever you have pain and discomfort, there's a blockage of the natural flow of energy. Okay.
Mm.
So in order to access the greatest amount of intelligence that's going inside of you, what would you have to do? You would have to remove the roadblock.
Right.
And so the first step is you have to address tissue health.
Okay.
Because if you address structural health first, without first addressing tissue health, the unhealthy tissue pulls the structure back out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so there's a system out there that I've been developing called Bestersize, right? Bioenergetic self-transformational sequences. And the reason why that's for me, the most important part of the process is because it breaks the codependent, dependent relationship between practitioners and patients. Okay. So if let's say I have a headache, okay, and I have to go to my acupuncturist, or I have to go to Walgreens um, to pick up some medicine, then what's going to happen? I'm reliant on something outside of me in order to
Right.
resolve something inside of me.
Right.
But what if there was a way to actually learn how to move your body, how to resolve tension and stress, get your tissues healthy so that you could resolve it from the inside out and not need someone from the outside in? That would put you in a very powerful position, because it means you could then determine how much time, energy, and effort you wanted to put into your body, brain, and nervous system to produce the results that you wanted, to make yourself feel better every single day.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
So
Yeah. I mean, I'm
imagine that.
thinking of an episode I had in the show that's called, issue. We hold issues in our tissues, and
Yes, I'm the
that's
one who
basically
coined
what
that
you're saying.
phrase.
What was that?
Yes, I'm the one who coined that phrase.
Really? Okay.
Read it in the book. It's in the book.
Okay.
The
All
issues are in
right.
your tissues.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, someone was using it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, tell us about that. Is that your program that you called Free for Life, or is that something else?
My book is called Free for Life. My program is called True Body Intelligence.
Okay. But
Okay.
you
And
mentioned
yes,
something else a minute ago, a long name that I didn't catch. Right.
yeah, a long name that you didn't catch.
Started
Well,
with a P, something like that.
P.
No, what you just talked about, in order to change the internally, change the energy in your tissues. You mentioned something. It wasn't either one of those two words, but
Yeah. That's not a system. That's more of that's just more vernacular that I use in order to
okay,
describe the transformational process.
okay, all right, all right.
So
Mhm.
the issues are in your tissues. So I'm glad that that's passed along, right? I
Great.
coined that phrase 22 years ago.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I'm not. I'm
Wow.
dead serious. So I'm happy
Yes,
to hear that it's gone around the world and come
yes,
back to me.
yes, 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 yes.
So
Yeah.
the tissue, so tissue health, right?
Mhm.
Whenever your body's toxic, okay, your tissues get unhealthy. Why? Because where does the toxicity sit? It sits in your tissues.
Mhm.
And so you want to remove that out of the tissues. And the way to do that is through a simple system that I've been developing called Mashing, M-A space X-I-N-G, right? I call it horse stomping. So somebody's walking up and down your body, and you're getting to feel all the discomfort that's in those parts. And as a person starts to actually breathe relative to the true level of sensation that they're feeling, you know what happens? The body lets go of all of the toxicity immediately.
Really? That's
Yes, I've had
interesting.
people, their discomfort levels like a 13 out of 10. I get their breath up to a 13, and then literally 10 seconds later, they're laying there in complete comfort.
Wow.
I don't see them for a couple years. They
Mhm.
come back and see me. I get back on their body, and guess what? There's still no discomfort, right? So this is what I mean by true transformation. I
Hmm.
don't want to have to go see my chiropractor every Thursday or every other Wednesday
Right,
for 10 years. I
right.
want an immediate, instantaneous solution.
Right.
Because if people are coming and they're investing money, right? They're going to work, they're
Mhm.
busting their behinds. Hopefully, they're doing something they're passionate about. They're taking those resources, they're bringing them to you. They could have put that in the stock market. They could have put that into real estate, but instead they're investing it
Well, I
into
actually have a
themselves.
personal example. My sister had a car accident once and hurt her neck, and she's been going to the chiropractor for 10 years,
Yeah.
massaging her neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about,
You know
right?
what I'm talking about. And this is no shade on chiropractic care. Chiropractic care has its place. But if
Mhm,
you're somebody that's like me, you're a self-starter and you're self-motivated
mhm.
and you want instantaneous change that's more permanent, guess what? That didn't exist 22 years ago.
Right. Okay.
That didn't exist 30 years ago. That didn't exist when I was born 50 plus years ago. Okay.
Mhm.
Now that's available. And not only that, do you get out of your discomfort and your pain and get more present, get less depressed and get more passionate about your life. You get to choose how high you want to go based on how much time, energy, and effort and resources you're willing to invest. Right?
Okay.
Like
Well,
it's a
walk me
system
through
that
it because,
constantly gives back.
right, I'm not getting it because I know that we're energetic beings, and when you talked about, you know, your issues and your tissues, let's use that one because that's the one that I know. But I also work with the chakra systems, and I know that the energy, like for instance, if you know, I got lower back pain, and when you were talking a minute ago, I thought of that, and I do know that there's something going on there, right? And I have gone to the chiropractor to get adjusted and to get massages or whatever, and it's still there, right? It's
Yeah.
not as intense, but it's still there. So I know that there's some kind of energy block there, that
That's right.
right there, and it's my first chakra. So how are we getting this the stuff out of the tissues? What are we using? Are we using the mind to clear the energy, or how are we doing this?
Well, there's several ways to do it. Okay. So
Okay.
we can always look when someone wants to transform,
Hmm.
the transformation begins with where you started, which is mentally, right? You have to set a clear intent.
Hmm.
Because once you set clear intent, the universe lines up behind you to bring you the people, the resources, the dynamic, the situation that you need in order to go on the transformational healing process. Okay.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's impossible to transform if you don't heal. Those things are inextricably connected at the root. You have to heal in order to transform. You have to transform in order to heal.
Okay.
Okay. So you could go through addressing the tissues. After you address the tissue health through some form of deep massage. I don't mean going to the Hilton and having somebody rub oil on you. Okay. All right.
Right.
And then paying
Right.
them $220 an hour. I live in Marina Del Rey. I promise you right now, I could find a $300 massage where they're going
Right.
to rub oil on me and play nice music in the background. And 3 days later, I'm going to wake up with the same level of
Yeah,
discomfort in
exactly.
my body.
Right. Right.
That is
Hmm.
a terrible investment, right?
Hmm.
That would be like me going out and spending $300 on Bitcoin right now, right? Buy 5 coins for $60,000, wake up the next day and find that they're worth 10 each,
That's
right?
right. Right.
Right.
Yes.
It's a
Good
terrible
analogy. Good
investment,
analogy. Right.
right?
Hmm.
What I'm talking about is spending $300, going into your body, into the depth of where this stuff begins, breathing, right? Breathing, matching your breath to the true level of sensation. If your tissue sensation is a 7 out of 10, which that's quite uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Okay. 10 is the maximum. That's as uncomfortable as you can possibly get.
Right.
And your breath is at a 3, you're going to hold on to that discomfort. But if
Okay.
your breath is at a 7, while your
Okay.
tissue sensation is at a 7, guess what happens when those two things match? When your emotional body,
Okay.
your breath, and your physical body, the physical sensations match, guess what's going to happen?
You said the pain disappears.
It drops out of the bottom, because guess
Right.
what? Guess what your body is always asking for? It's only asking to be met emotionally. And when it's met emotionally, the brain goes, okay, let it go. We got exactly what we needed. Because when you look at children, right?
Mhm.
And a baby's about to start crying because it bumped its head, right?
Mhm.
Or it got its finger caught underneath its toy. And the mom rushes in, or the dad rushes in, and they stop the baby from crying. What do they stop the baby from doing? They stop the baby from breathing, actually.
Okay.
So now that pain, whoop, gets lodged into the body. The parent
That's
interrupts
interesting.
the
That's
child's
interesting. Yeah,
ability to
because you're
self-soothe.
saying that when you cry, you're breathing and you're letting out.
You're breathing.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Now they
yeah.
interrupt the breathing process. So what happens is that imprint of pain stays there. It gets
Okay.
stuck. It's like
Mm,
who's the guy? Walt Disney wanted to be cryogenically frozen. Right? Well, guess what? All humans have been emotionally frozen because parents um, think that if their child is crying, that they're a bad parent, and they never give the child enough space to self-soothe, and
mm,
they interrupt the child's emotional process
yeah.
because
That's a good tip. That's a good
that's
tip
right. That's
because
right.
the psychologist will tell you that if you run and soothe that child, then the child develops, knowing that someone is always there for him. Wow, this stuff is complicated.
Yeah, it's very complex, yet it's very simple. If you're a
Yeah.
parent and you have
Mhm.
the ability to listen to this call, and I had 2 weeks ago, I had two parents bring in an 8-month-old baby, and I had to teach them how to work with that baby.
Okay.
Okay, for 5 days straight. All
Okay.
right. And after 5 days, they could not believe the level of communication that I had with their child. The mom said to me, she said, it's almost like my child came out of your womb, because your ability to communicate with her is
That's
dramatically
beautiful.
greater than mine.
It's beautiful.
And I said,
But
okay, because I give the child
parenting doesn't come
space.
with a manual. You just
That's right.
gotta, it doesn't come in a manual. You just gotta work it the best way you know how. So, all right. So what did you do there? I'm interested in that.
So what I did there is as soon as her name is Kaya, and as
Mhm.
soon as Kaya was roaming around and she hit something and she went into crying, I gave her the space. They wanted to jump down. I said, no, 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 no. Give her time to self-soothe. And then
Mhm.
when she's done self-soothing, she'll give you a sign. And every
Mm.
single time she was done self-soothing, she reached her arms for one of her parents.
Yeah.
But every time they interfered and went and picked her up, they actually stopped her self-soothing process,
Right. Wow.
right? They want to do the monkey dance or rubber belly, and children need an opportunity to learn from the experience that they're in, right? They have to learn from the experience that they're in. So if you're interfering, it'd be like if I was throwing a football,
Mhm.
and in the middle of my throw, you came in and grabbed my arm.
Mhm.
I would never learn how to throw a football
Oh,
correctly,
right.
right?
Right.
I have to learn how to make the mistake, throw the ball and see that it's not going where I want it to go. The
Right.
emotional body is exactly the same. And you know what happened? Within one day, and all my furniture is hardwood, okay?
Mhm.
This child, because I let her bump her head, she figured out very quickly where her head was in space, and
Yeah.
she never once again bumped her head.
Yeah.
And
Wow. This is good stuff because what do
she
people
knew,
do when their children are around? They move everything out of the way
oh,
and
no,
they're
no,
not
no.
giving them that experience.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. They have to bump, because how do humans learn? Humans
Yep.
learn by making mistakes and
Yes.
bumping into things.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
If you
Yep.
don't let them bump into things and mistakes, and you don't let them self-soothe, they actually never learn, and they build a codependent, dependent relationship with the parents. So guess what? When people come to see me, what
Mhm.
are we talking about? What do you think is the number one issue in every single one of the people that I work with? Codependent, dependent relationships.
Yeah.
Their liver channel and their gallbladder channel are severely taut and stressed.
Wow.
And that's where they're
Yeah.
holding a majority of their tension and their toxicity.
Mm. All right. So
And
continue the
so,
process. So first of all, they set the intention that that's what they want to do. Then
yep.
they get your special massage.
No, then
And
they
then what
come in
happens
and then
next?
I do a thorough investigation, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I need to know where's this tension and stress coming from. Like
Okay.
how, because most people, when they come to see me, they think they're coming to see me for one reason. And when they get there, they realize really quickly that they're actually there for something else.
So what they think they're coming to see you for? Because for a
They
minute, I
might
would think
thinking
that
they're
you're coming
coming to
for
see
pain.
me
Right.
because their back is stiff, right? Like you
Right.
may think you're coming to see me because your back is stiff, and then we go down a completely different rabbit hole. And then you're like,
I agree. I agree. Okay. I agree.
okay,
Because we all know that, right? Yes. Like going back to the issues in the tissues. Yes. So, whatever issues that I have, it's been stored there.
yeah,
And
yes,
people have them everywhere, whether it's, so I get that. Okay. So you go
yeah,
down the rabbit hole, you identify the source, and then
right.
what happens?
And then, let's say that might be 2 hours and I'm listening and I'm investigating, I'm listening and investigating. And then I need to see, does their story match up with their body? Right.
Right.
And then I go in and I start in on the issues in their tissues. And 100% of the time, the story that they gave me is exactly what's going on inside of their body. And what I mean by the story that they gave me, the story they gave me about the environment that they were raised in.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I have a father who is dutiful, okay, super disciplined, hardworking, and you grow up in an environment like that, and you're more of an artistic, emotional child, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to leave a specific kind of imprint in you, and you're going to develop very specific kind of strategies in order to avoid punishment, rejection, humiliation, violence, discomfort, and pain from that parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, what's the first step we have to do? We have to locate how that parent impacted you. Then we need to figure out, how did your mom impact you? And every time their story about their mom and their story about their dad matches up with exactly what's going on in their body,
Your
it's
bodies.
happened every single time.
Right. Okay.
And so now you're matching the story and the investigation with the body. And then guess what? We go in, we start removing that tension and that stress, and their relationship with their parent changes in one day. I'm talking
Oh,
terrible
they forgive
relationships.
them. They
Oh,
understand them.
they
How does it change
understand them, they forgive them, they give them
with it?
space to be themselves. The most important thing is they're never, ever triggered by their parent again.
Okay. Got you. All
Oh,
right. Let's
I
circle back to
hardly,
you because you
okay.
had all these complex things. So how
Yep.
did, the fact that your mom broke your leg and your babysitter put your hand on the fire, use you as a subject. How did you resolve that?
I resolved that with the steps that I'm explaining, but the impact was it changed the way in which I relate energetic and emotionally with women of authority.
Ah, got you.
Okay.
Got you. Okay.
So, a lot of my female teachers in high school um, would have said that I was kind and smart and charming, but I would be willing to talk back in zero point 0.2 seconds.
All right.
Okay. And
Okay.
so I never had any challenges with my male authoritative figures when I was going to boarding school. Right.
Okay.
But my female teachers would trigger me in a way that at a
Mhm.
deep subconscious level. What I mean by that, when I say conscious, unconscious, subconscious, superconscious, I mean either at a mental, an emotional, a physical, or spiritual level.
Mhm.
All right. So think about the unconscious, or let's start with the smallest, the conscious mind as one grain of sand. Okay.
Mhm.
Everyone out there is trying to manage their entire life with this tiny grain of sand. Well, your unconscious is more like a 55-gallon drum of sand, But your subconscious is all the sand on planet Earth, and your superconscious is all the sand in the universe, right? And most humans are trying to manage everything in their life with that tiny grain of sand. They're trying to understand all of reality. And a conscious mind doesn't have the ability to do that. And the reason why I'm giving this as a precursor is for people to understand when I say subconscious or unconscious, the form of intelligence and the vastness of that form of intelligence. Okay, so at the subconscious level, we're talking about all the intelligence on planet Earth. Okay, so most humans are using their body like it's a skateboard, right? Like a one grain of sand, where ultimately their body is like the Starship Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that advanced. Yet, when you have massive amounts of tension and stress in it, and remember, the average human being is at about 86.4%, you get access to about 13.5% of that intelligence. That's it. So if we go through the process, regardless of what your situation was, whether you had a very complex dynamic stressors that were coming in, or you had something a little less, depending on your level of sensitivity, it still puts you at 86.4% because when you're in your mother's womb, your mother and father's seed and egg are mixing together, and all of the epigenetics, right? All of the unresolved, unconscious, survival-based strategies are being baked into your nervous system. Okay, they're literally being baked into your nervous system. And then when you're born, you're hired and required to act all of that out to produce some level of contrast. And hopefully it's large enough that it puts you on the path of transformation so that you can wake up and realize that you are the creator of your own reality. And that reality is made up of 10 to 20 to 30 generations of your lineage on your mother's and father's side, right? So what we're talking about when we talk about true body intelligence, we're talking about a total true evolution in human consciousness. And the only way we can get there is one person at a time.
Right.
So when we see something going on in the world that we don't like that triggers us, the only reason why it triggers us is because whatever that person is doing is existing inside of you.
Right.
Because the purpose of the work and the book that you read, Free for Life or True Body Intelligence, is to get every human back to neutrality. Because when you're at neutrality, you add nothing in, you take nothing away. You simply see things for what they are, free of judgment, criticism, disapproval, or an overly moralizing position.
Okay.
Now, 50 years ago, okay, that wasn't possible. Okay, you basically, the only thing humans had is they had the ability to manage their life with their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the more intelligent you were, the easier it was for you to manage the complex stressors that you were in. But so at some point, the complex stressors in human evolution outweighed, okay, what the mind could manage. And then they started leaning on caffeine. They started leaning on recreational drugs. They started leaning on alcohol. They started leaning on refined sugars. They started leaning on, now the worst thing in the world, pharmaceutical drugs.
Right.
But why are they leaning on them? They're leaning on them simply to attempt to manage their lifetime accumulated stress load. That's a combination of the experiences they've had in this life and all of the experiences that their ancestors had before they were born that are all based in survival, which means they're based in fight or flight dynamics.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what's happening with the African American community, because they've got all that, that generational stuff that's coming through from slavery and all that stuff. So yeah, and you also told me before we started that your father was from West Africa, so you've got some there too. But I definitely agree that the only thing I would add to what you just talked about, the subconscious and the superconscious, is that most people, let's say 95%, most, or maybe it might even be higher than that, don't understand that the subconscious is what's guiding them, or everything that they're doing is because of the subconscious. Like you just
That's right.
need a good example of it, that your mom did something to you, and a babysitter did something to you, and you put that in a bucket where women of authority, and your subconscious recorded that, and you
That's
weren't
right.
even aware of it. You're
That's right.
now aware of it now because you're in
Yeah.
that space. But back then, you were not aware of it
Well, I
because
was aware.
conscious is just
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
subconscious just recorded it. Go ahead. What was
yeah.
that?
Meaning that I wasn't aware that it was stored in the subconscious, but I was aware that when I got my detention,
Right.
I had all of lunch to think about while staring at a wall. I had all of lunch to think about my actions, right?
Yeah, but you still didn't know why you did the action. I mean, what I'm trying
No.
to say is that you
Yeah, yeah,
know that
for
you didn't
sure.
like your female teachers, right? And I don't think you were smart enough to know why, right? You
Yeah,
just
it's
did it.
different
Right.
than like. It means triggered. Like
Right.
I liked them as people,
Okay.
but they had when I was with them, I felt unsafe.
Right.
So they would say certain things that I would get triggered by, but I
Right.
still
Right.
liked them.
Okay. Right. I
Yeah,
got you. Right. But yeah, I mean, and that behavior would have continued on to your
forever.
marriages, or
Yes.
because you'd have several
Yeah.
marriages,
Yes, you'd have
unless
several.
it became to your conscious awareness. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So that's what I'm saying, that yes, the super conscious, and I like your analogy about the conscious being a grain of sand, and the subconscious being, a 50-gallon bucket or whatever, because yeah, that's what's running the show, right?
That is what's running the show. And so,
Yes.
what we're offering in True Body Intelligence and the Free for Life path is simple, is to reduce your lifetime accumulated stress load so low that your subconscious and your unconscious get into alignment with your conscious desires, and you shift onto the path of ease and grace. And it's very easy to experience what it is you're desiring to experience. Some people don't want to experience money. Some people don't experience travel. Some people want to experience
Peace.
um,
Peace,
peace of
right?
mind, right? Some people want to
Yeah.
experience being more open and in a serendipitous flow, right? Yet ultimately, money can never buy you freedom. You
Right.
understand? We see it all the time. Look, I'm an AI fan and Allen Iverson fan. Okay. But
Okay.
Allen Iverson moved through more money than almost any other professional athlete at the pace in which he moved through that money, because he never dealt with his unconscious, subconscious,
Yeah.
superconscious, or conscious stressors.
Right.
Okay.
He was
He's well
using whatever he
respected.
bought with that money to
Yep,
self-soothe. Right. Got
that's
you.
right.
Mhm.
Okay. Yet,
Right.
if I had got a hold of Allen Iverson, okay,
Mhm.
when he went through the stressors and traumas that he was going through when he
Mhm.
was like 13, 14, and then 17, when he unfortunately went into that experience um, that he had where they wanted to put him in jail, Allen
Mhm.
Iverson would literally be the wealthiest athlete on the planet right now.
Really.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Mm.
Michael Jordan, if I'd got a hold of him when he was 36 years old, he would have won another 4 or 5 championships.
Mm.
LeBron James, if I got a hold of him,
I was just thinking
LeBron,
of LeBron James
LeBron,
when you were talking about money.
LeBron
Yeah.
would have 15 rings.
Okay. So
Okay.
he's got stressors too. I don't know much about about these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
These
know.
guys are under complex stressors constantly. Okay.
Really. Mm.
Yes. And so if you reduce their lifetime accumulated stress down to neutral,
Hmm.
okay, they see things they could never see, they feel things they could never feel, and you translate that into physical movement, into shooting a basketball, and it gives them a distinct advantage
Mm.
over their competition. right? If I got a hold of Tiger Woods 20 years ago, okay, he would have never had all the challenges that he's been dealing
Yeah,
with.
I know that
Okay.
something is wrong with Tiger Woods because of the fact, actually, I did read his biography, right? And he had some stressors. Now let's talk about Curry because everybody loves him. Does he have any? Because it doesn't
Yeah,
seem
I
like he
mean,
has any.
yeah, I'm saying everyone has complex stressors. What
Really?
I'm suggesting is that he, the love coming from his parents is
Right.
so total from his mom and dad,
Hmm.
and him having his father around,
Right.
changes everything, right?
Mm,
You look at the NBA players, right, where their dads were NBA players and their dads are totally vested in their lives.
mm-hmm.
Those guys end up with a completely different trajectory at an emotional level,
Right.
at an energetic spiritual level. Okay.
Mm,
What I'm saying is if a guy won 4 championships and he was
mhm.
the star player on their team, if we reduce his lifetime accumulated stress load by 50%, he would double those championships.
Right. Okay.
If
So
no,
even with
if
Steph
we did,
Curry, you can still find something.
oh, for sure. I mean, if I got
Okay.
a hold of Steph and was able to put, 2 or 3 years of energy into him, he would leave the NBA with more championships than Jordan for sure.
Right.
Right? Because
Yes.
he is a
Right.
highly evolved human from the amount of love and affection and attention and care that he
Yeah.
got from his parents. They created a
Yeah.
really
Yes.
powerful environment for him and his
Yeah.
brother to grow up in.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It always comes down to the parents. So that's
It always
amazing.
comes down to the parents.
Right. Yes, that's
Yeah.
amazing. All right. So we're almost out of time. So tell our audience how they can get a hold of you with True Body Intelligence. I know that's your website, truebodyintelligence.com, and your book is called Free for Life. So tell us about, how they can get in contact with you
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and
It's
sign
it's
up. Right.
easy. For the first step for everyone is get the book and read the book. Okay.
Okay.
If you're a music fan, you like music, you can go to my website. You can pick up my album, Heart and Soul. Um,
Okay.
but if you're into deep transformation and you want to reach your potential, the easiest way to do that is to start setting the intent right now that we get the opportunity to work together. And if you want to do that, you send an email to support@truebodyintelligence.com, or you get a hold of my assistant at assist.rit@gmail.com. And she'll set up possibly a 30-minute call. But don't dare call her or email her until you've read the book. Because in order for us to have a call, we have to share a common language.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
language that I use in the book that I've created is very unique.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
So you got the
Love that.
book,
Free for life.
you got the album. Look,
Right.
I'm the type of person, you got to jump through some hoops.
Yeah.
If you just give people stuff that they don't have to work for, they never appreciate it. Never.
True.
Okay.
True.
Unless they're
I love
really
it.
struggling.
Right.
So
I love it. I love
the
it. I
book is
love it.
Free
I
for
love it.
Life, a
Okay.
U.S. Navy SEAL's unique path to inner freedom and outer peace. You got the album Heart and Soul. You've got a course that I created on the internet called the 8 Stepping Stones to Inner Freedom. That's easy to download and go through that course. It's profound education spiritually and energetically. We can already start shedding all of this generational tension that you've been picking up. By the end of that course, you will have made a dramatic shift. And trust me, I have clients that are MDs, PhDs, surgeon generals, all at the highest levels. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If research scientists, okay, that would get on the call and would go, listen to this guy. He knows exactly what he's talking about. Okay.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
So do your due diligence, read the book,
Mm-hmm.
do the course, listen to the music, send an email, get
Okay.
in the vibe, and I will come into your life and I will help you.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. You know, what you do is good work.
Thank
Because
you.
yes, everybody wants to feel better, right? And everybody wants to have happiness and not have pain in their bodies. But yeah, most of us go and, get something that doesn't last, like either a massage that we know it's doing some good, but it's not permanent. Or,
That's right.
the reason that the drugs is blown out of proportion is because you get someone to give you a pill and then you got to keep taking that pill. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And
And the
that's
other thing,
basically what the
yeah,
problem is, because
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
pain pills.
yeah, pain, yes, pain pills, right?
Yep.
Whether it's an SSRI,
Yep.
or it's ecstasy, or it's MDMA,
Mhm.
or it's ketamine, or it's marijuana, whatever it is,
Yep.
they're distracting from their pain and their discomfort within themselves. But here's the interesting thing.
Mhm.
What I think, especially for women, because women are more conscious about their looks and their age, this
Mhm.
work will drop 10 years off your face within 3 months.
3 months, huh?
Within 3 months, it'll
Wow.
drop
Okay.
10 years off your face.
Very
You will
nice.
literally
Very
look
nice.
10 years younger, and you will stay there.
Yes. Very
Okay.
nice. Okay. Mhm.
So if you want to look good, you want to feel better, you're tired of any form of struggle, and you want to get on the path of ease and grace and get the most out of this life, the simplest, easiest way to do it is to reduce your lifetime accumulated stress load by 50%. And
Right.
then everything gets easy. You knock on the doors, they open, and they let you in.
It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. Thank you, Christopher. That was amazing. We didn't even
Thank you.
talk much about the Navy SEAL. But anyway,
No need.
yes.
No need. I mean, that's it's interesting. When I was going through SEAL training, I remember there was a point, I was working out on the sand, and sand gets in everywhere, right? And it
Right.
was it was it was rubbing my skin raw. And I remember looking up towards heaven going, why am I doing this? And I remember hearing a voice go, listen, this is for much later down the road, right? I just need you
Yeah,
to go through this program. I need you to
that's
have
true.
this experience. And I was like, okay,
That's true.
i'm
I
I'm totally
absolutely
down.
totally agree. It was preparation,
That's right.
preparation for your life work.
Yes.
Yes, so
Yes.
we'll leave
That's
it
the best
there.
thing you said to me.
That is
Yes.
amazing.
That was
Right.
preparation for my life's work.
For your life work. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. Like I said, I read the book by David Goggins that I was telling you about,
Yeah.
and he gave us the details of SEAL training. And I've been extremely, as soon as I saw that you were a Navy SEAL, I wanted to talk to you because I have so much respect
Thank you.
for the training and what you guys go through. You talk about sand everywhere. You talked
Oh
about
yeah.
the water,
Oh
talk
yeah.
about having to tie knots under the water and
Mhm.
passing out, and people, because you got to stay under there for so much time. It's amazing. And, them trying to break you, and that thing where you stay up for a week,
Oh yeah. Yes.
all that stuff. I'm absolutely incredibly impressed.
Thank
So,
you.
well, listen, Christopher, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about inner freedom and outer peace by actually, getting rid of the issues in our tissues.
Yes.
Rename this that.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, it's that's very interesting. It's a play on words, and it's a beautiful
Yeah.
it's a beautiful tagline. But yeah, I have an episode on that, so I will definitely link to that. And so thank you for sharing. Yes,
You're welcome.
listen, you guys go out and grab Christopher's book called Free for Life. Head over to his website, truebodyintelligence.com. If you missed any of our conversation, I would have a transcript of my conversation with Christopher Lee on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. It would also have links there if you just wanted to just click on it. I also want to remind you to support the advertisers that support the show, and their links as well would be on the show page. Thanks, Christopher. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about transformation, which is basically what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Transforming your mind, transforming your life. So today we talked about transforming your energy, transforming the issues in your tissues, and so that you would have a much better emotional health and happiness in life. So any last words, Christopher, before we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you. I may be out in the world creating and manifesting the work that I'm manifesting, yet it's people who open themselves up and find people like me to get us into the hands of people who are actually in need and have a desire and have a want and that's deep around transformation. People like you are the way showers, right?
Thank you.
Right. You're doing the important work, which is being vulnerable and open yourself up to have a new experience, to discover something, and being transparent within your own story, like you shared about your back.
Yeah.
I am as impressed with what you're doing. And I'm very grateful that you would allow me to come on to a show that could possibly create some impact for someone else. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. That was beautiful. Well, thank you. Yes, I like that. A showmaker, right? I'm very selective of the guests I come on because I want to keep the content good. So yes, thank you so much for sharing this very great content. And yeah, I mean, the listeners now can go and check your work out and check out your book and start their journey of transformation. Love it, love it, love it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
awesome. I love it. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio podcast and television show. If you're watching this on iTunes, remember to subscribe and leave a review because I try to bring you awesome content like Christopher Lee today. So until next time, namaste.
Namaste.